All right, here we go again. Buckle up. I saw some things on the mayor of New York's page, but unfortunately, his Facebook page needs updating. So, again, for some reason, the mayor of New York, when I look at your page, it hasn't been updated since February. Now, there might be some glitch in me viewing your page or something else, but that shouldn't be. You should, as the mayor of New York, you should be on Facebook as well as X, as well as Blue Sky. You should find every social media page and update it every day at least once. Say, hey, I'm alive and I'm working on the business. However, it was about a community center, community space. Years ago, I was planning the first go around in 2005 or so, 2004 and 5. I was planning to possibly join a Sikh community. And it was a future that was going to exist until the deep state stopped it because the whole vision disappeared at that point. And they did infiltrate that organization, may have already been in there. So in the vision, and I believe it was New York, from what I could tell, and I just finished healing New York for a period of time and that kind of thing, feeding some of the homeless, giving them money, whatever it was. I didn't live in New York. I traveled up there to do it. I lived in southern New Jersey with my mother. So in this vision, I'm sure it was from God, there was another person from the Sikhs with me, and she was a high power person within the Sikh community. I didn't really know her, but there was a future where we would work on certain projects. It wasn't like her and I sitting there working on it. It was more of a discussion. And I mean, it was a euphoric vision. It was something else. Now, it wasn't high. So in it, essentially, you're thinking of building supermarkets, thinking of childcare, you're thinking of feeding people that need it. So this would actually combine all of it. Now, this one was wild because essentially you would build the housing and you could actually connect inside with places to eat. Again, the Sikh Langar concept. But I already had that concept before I studied Sikhism. So what does that mean? That means you'd have to, let me start by saying this. Elon Musk used AI and he used it incorrectly because he never asked AI, if I cut this, will this cost us more money in the long run? You always have to do that. Again, I explained to you that you want to provide assistance to the undocumented community. But if you do that, you attract them and have attracted them, and then you wanted to provide a better life for Black families. Those two things conflict. So what you have to ask AI is how to fix that. How do we provide for the immigrant community and not cause job issues and money issues for the Black community? What you might find is there is a limit of how much you can support each community, or how should I say it? There's a limit to what you can do for the undocumented community before you massively affect Black jobs. Just like I said with Elon Musk, I said he's got to be careful in cutting things like SNAP because it took years to figure out that if we don't provide a certain level of public assistance, and again, obviously, the systems have been defrauded, so we first need to fix that. But if we don't provide a certain level of assistance, then we have to pay in other areas. Medicaid makes sense when they engage in preventative medicine, because then we don't have to pay on the other side. And again, if the government doesn't pay, somebody pays, and the hospitals have to treat them. And then what happens? They pass it on to the consumer. So again, AI should be used to figure your way through that. And again, a lot of people say, well, if they're going to commit crimes and get arrested, and it's expensive to arrest them, to try them, to put them in prison and keep them in prison, costs more money than feeding them and housing them. Corrections is expensive. And again, the mayor of New York has seen that. Now, I don't know what you're going to do if you get rid of Rikers Island completely, but again, you have to be careful that you're not Elon Musk and cutting things too fast. So you'll figure through AI, ask AI the pertinent questions. Don't cheat because you want a certain outcome. It's one of the dangers with AI, to try to manipulate AI so you get the outcome that you want. Sometimes you do have to, like, it leans left, and I'm trying to get some straight facts about certain issues that, the left have a certain opinion on. I got to check my oven here. Give me a second. It looks good. How many minutes left? Making some pizza, frozen pizza. So when you build these projects, if you could, in the center, and again, there are concepts that have been used similar to this, but maybe not as complete. So you build your supermarket. And where's your supermarket? In the middle of, and again, it's not every supermarket. Over time, it could be. In the middle of where you build the housing. So it dumps out on a quad. There's the supermarket. And then what should be there at the supermarket? Well, you're bringing in food pretty cheap, pretty wholesale, because you're going to be, that's how it works. You need to figure out how to get your food as cheap as you can wholesale, and then pass that on to consumer. But who else can you pass it on to? A restaurant. And if you do it right, people will pay for that food regular price. And you don't have to charge regular price, because you probably won't. You'll drop the prices in your restaurant. Although, wait a minute, we might be killing the other restaurants. Well, actually, for people, that don't have money, generally they'll go there. I don't think that people that are rich or wealthy will stop going to Chez Pierre's and go to the city restaurant, or they may try it once if they're interested. But next, in the same structure as the city supermarket, you have the city restaurant. Now, how does this work? You want to provide childcare. Childcare should be in that area too. It should be in the area also. And what could you do for childcare from that restaurant? You can provide meals when it's time to feed. So you can, allow some private sector to pick up, but here is an experiment that you can engage in and use. I would recommend using artificial intelligence to make sure it'll work, or at least believe it'll work. So you see how that's built. So a mother that's working, a lot of times with childcare, we're looking at single mother, but we also have, married mothers and things like that. Comes home from work, tired as all get out. She picks up her kids. Now she's got to cook dinner. But what happens if you have a city restaurant? That will be a card for people that need meals. They can qualify for the meals. And again, you might want to start with a small test group. And then she can use her card to pick up the meals and take the kids home. So again, you build this all-service facility, and you also are going to build your community centers around that area also. Now, again, we don't want to get into the issue where we have fights and things like that. So we're going to have to think our way through it and figure out the best way to do such a thing. You might do part of it. You may do all of it. That depends on how it works for you. But the idea is that one of your projects will feed the other project, literally but figuratively. And that may allow you to save the money you need to save. You can also provide wholesale goods to businesses, food goods. Now, again, the problem is, and this is the problem with socialism, you might put somebody out of business. But again, if your target is Black families having money, you might be offering Black families loans for businesses. And if you offer them a restaurant, you can say our wholesale business is, we'll take care of, the food you order. We'll give you a good deal. So again, that's generally socialism, but yet have to work in capitalism to make it work. Again, if you're providing a supermarket, a city-run supermarket, there is a certain level of capitalism in that. And again, who works at your supermarket? Who works at your restaurant? Who works at your childcare? People you train that need a job, that you've rehoused. So the idea is combining all of it and make it work synergistically. But the idea in the vision was that everybody on every corner there would be a kitchen. No matter who you are, you could come eat that food, and that's actually a Sikh concept. Not necessarily as big as it used to be, or as big as it is at the big worship facilities in India, but it does exist. So again, holistic housing, the same idea. And you could put your some doctors over there, a clinic over there, that kind of thing. I wouldn't necessarily put the no harm facilities over there where they get to use narcotics supervised. But again, the idea is to provide some housing that provides that kind of assistance. Now, again, no harm is the goal is to get them to trust you and get them off of the narcotics. Some people, you're not going to get to that point unless you entertain it for a period of time and get to know them and they get to know you. And again, you being the social worker. Every no harm facility should have a social worker trained in CPR and all that type of thing. There should be a defibrillator there. The no harm attendant should be a trained person. Maybe EMT1 and social work would be probably a good, or EMTA, sometimes they call it. And you might pick up on a nurse that has social work. That would work also. Social work credits or something like that. Or train somebody for it. Create your own programs at your city schools. So again, one of the things I wanted to say was use AI. Start projecting with AI. Don't cheat. Even maybe throw some curveballs into the project and see what AI says. And then maybe even ask AI, what curveballs that I can't see could affect this project. And one of it I already see, and that's crime. Well, when we tend to build those spaces, sometimes crime hits. Even the community center, I think that they rehabbed or something. They fixed it up. I think I was reading, and then opened it back up. I think that's what it said. Well, even those places, there has been violence in some of those locations. So there's a lot that can be done, but it's a very difficult process if it moves in the wrong direction. I think AI is the answer. I think synergistically opening several of the projects adjacent to one another, and that's New York. New York does that with, again, public housing didn't work out too well, but there were, uh, it lacked knowledge that we have today. Again, the holistic housing concept, the holistic rehousing concept. You're expecting, to get blood from a stone, or the government was expecting to get blood from a stone when it needed a little bit more um, in holistic therapies available for the residents of those places. Again, we didn't have the knowledge that we have now. So housing will work if you house people with the expectation that there will be issues. Again, AI, what issues will we run into? This is the population we want to serve. Be honest. Crime is one of them. And then ask, how do we fix that? Again, part of it is treating the whole person and the whole community. Unfortunately, in some cases, prison is the only thing that works. But you can beat prison if you do it right. Again, bringing your clergy in. It's very important that your clergy prays for all the projects and for all the people honestly and neutrally. They can't hold back. They can't have their own little biases. So again, the idea is to use AI and try to synergistically open your projects simultaneously. So if you open a grocery store, you also open a restaurant, which again, for some people might be a kitchen, like a home, not a homeless, what do they call that? A community kitchen, I guess. And again, so you're providing the food from your own wholesale system into the community kitchen, which should help maybe in pricing. I'm not sure. You have to do the work to figure that out. And then you can provide daycare. And again, you could have space and say, a contractor. And then the contractor runs daycare behind the kitchen and behind, next to the grocery store, and then over there is a restaurant on the side, and then behind there is the daycare. And then the kitchen and probably the grocery store probably has diapers and things like that if they need that. They can provide and supply the daycare. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.